Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Addison, whatever time you're listening, and thank you for joining us for our ASD Chat for All podcast. We have lots of fun and exciting things on the horizon for Addison School District 4, and this podcast allows us the opportunity to connect with our parents and guardians, families, and community to celebrate our students, their accomplishments, and so much more. Your hosts for this podcast are ASD4 Superintendent Dr. Nick Sutton and myself, Dean Constantopoulos. You interested in hearing more about what's going on in District 4? Come on in and have a chat. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again for another episode of our ASD Chat for All podcast. My name is Dean Constantopoulos. I'll be one of your hosts this afternoon, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dr. Nick Sutton. Nick, the weekend's coming up. Got any fun plans coming?
Staying warm, but
Ooh, yeah.
Honestly, as I look out my window, if there is one universal truth, whether a kid is in kindergarten or 8th grade, they enjoy it when it snows.
Absolutely.
I see it.
A lot more than me, that's for sure. I don't want to. It's there's something interesting about like waiting for a snow day, going outside, going and playing with snowball fights and all that kind of stuff. And then when you get older, thinking about your windshield wipers freezing over and all this, it loses some of the magic. I miss those days.
I get it. But as we sit here in an office, we are quite warm.
Yes,
we are here with a special guest of ours. So,
absolutely.
With no intended connection to the cold temperature outside.
Exactly.
I'm going to break the ice.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. Yeah, you like that?
I really do.
Right off the top of my head.
Fantastic.
All right. So we are joined here today with Mr. Chris Jamrose, principal over at the junior high. So first and foremost, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me, both of you. I
course.
appreciate to be here. Been trying to navigate some sickness that's been going on in my household, and it seems like it's kind of everywhere right now. Luckily I have been very healthy, so I'm appreciative of that.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, knock on wood that stays the same way, right?
I'm taking my vitamins.
That's perfect.
That is great. So I know who you are. Dean knows who you are. So for anybody out there listening, who are you? What exactly do you do here in the district? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about more of a typical day of Chris Jamrose here at Addison 4.
So yes, as the principal of the middle school, my day is pretty unpredictable. I can't tell you what one day looks like from the next. I have things that are on my calendar, and 9 o'clock rolls around, and something might grab my attention that pulls me away from what I was going to be doing. So a typical day. All administration, we welcome the kids at the various entry points to the building. We walk around, we try to get the day started, and then depending on what the day looks like, all of us, the 5 of us, there's a 5-person administrative team at the middle school. We all oversee different things or respond to different needs based on what the building has, what the grade levels have, what each academic department has. Yeah. So it's a good way to try to, for lack of a better term, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And so we think about like for an example, when there's a lot of kids walking around or in large areas, right? We need supervision. So we try to make sure that we are assigned, and if somebody's pulled into a meeting for something, we try to cover each other just to make sure that we're able to keep the ship sailing forward.
Absolutely.
At all times.
Yeah. Well, and that sounds so cool too, because not adhering to a specific routine every day, and kind of things change as you come in. That's got to keep the job really exciting, I imagine.
Yes, and the great thing about middle school kids is they are so unpredictable and funny, and they don't think without saying, and so I think that's part of the charm and the joy of working with middle school kids. And I was really worried about leaving teaching originally because I was worried about losing that connection with kids, but you prioritize what's important to you, and I still find and so I find the time to get around, and I'm proud that in a school of about 1,300 kids, I know a lot of kids' names, because I could have told you as a 12, 13-year-old child, I couldn't tell you who my principal who my principal was when I was
Right.
12 or 13 years old. So I try very hard to try to get to talk to as many kids as I can because I think it's important.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that the kids see that, and I'm sure that they really appreciate that as well.
I hope so.
So let me kind of jump into the next question. That's kind of a little bit about your background, right? So I know that you've had, as you just said, you came from a background in teaching, but I also know that you've had many positions, leadership positions here at Indian Trail. And I was kind of wondering, could you tell us a little bit about your transition from the classroom to these leadership positions to now principal, and how have those experiences kind of shaped you into the leader you are today?
That's a great question.
We stumped him. This doesn't
Well,
happen often.
Yes.
Trying to think of how to portray this. So I started working in this district in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say my experiences have been a byproduct of the economy. When I first started teaching, that was at the height of the housing crisis.
Gotcha.
And I got riffed. That's a term that means basically, hey, we can't afford you because there's no money, so sorry.
Right.
So I was riffed for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing maternity leaves, so the person would come back, so I would have to go find a different job somewhere else. So
Right.
I see it as it was a really great opportunity to work in a variety of different buildings and districts. I was a music teacher, so
Right.
I worked with kids grades 5th grade up through 12th grade, and I traveled. I would go between. There was one district I worked for in Wisconsin where I taught virtually. I taught kids that lived in rural Wisconsin and
wow.
rural Minnesota because they have some sort of reciprocity. It was basically like credit recovery classes, but I was doing virtual before virtual.
Yeah.
Was unfortunately a thing for a period of time for
Right.
us. So that was very unique experiences. You get to experience a lot of different building cultures. Every building has its own personality, and when you walk into the building, it's simple things like who smiles at you when you walk in, right? And it's every building is different, and I feel like I got to sample a lot of different cultures and building cultures, and I feel like that was that was a unique experience that I had when I came into Addison because I was able to, I knew my experiences and they were varied and vast, and I think I was able to see like what worked well and how you treat people and
Right.
how you respond to things. And I've worked with students all over the place in terms of like age, demographics, socioeconomic status,
Right.
and it humbles you, and it helps you remember that like you're there ultimately for kids. And so like I think that's what grounded me when I came over here. And I was hired as a dean. I always experienced success with my kids because I would always take the approach that like you came to my classroom first to be loved, and like what I mean by that is like a lot of kids don't like school, right? And so
Sure.
like they got to build a good relationship with you first before
course.
you can actually before they get to trust you. So you have to get them to trust you.
Yeah.
And I take that. I still take that approach. I try to get to know the kids as much as I can. So when I came here in 2018, I was a dean of students for about a year and like a month, and then there was some internal movement within the district, and I was moved to the assistant principal role.
Gotcha.
And at that same time, that's when everything started shutting down. And so I did that again for like a year and a couple months, and then I transitioned again, and now I'm in my second year as principal here at the middle school.
Excellent.
And it has felt like drinking from a fire hydrant since day one. And
nice.
this because I have it. It's been very unsettled because I do one thing and I start getting used to the systems and the routines, and then they change, and
Right.
then I have to be flexible and adapt and change, and that's just part of it. That's part of like you just got to be flexible, and you got to roll with things as they come along, and just do the best job that you can, because ultimately like here for kids.
Yeah, and it sounds like your previous experiences have really allowed you to be flexible like that, because you've gone through many different, like you said, gone through many different programs and many different districts, and you've seen many different ways to do things. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that answer.
And I love it. So part of being a principal is preparing for fun activities and events. And so holidays are right around the corner. We may or may not be in the middle of a fun renovation at a certain library at a certain junior high campus. So
exactly.
What are some interesting things coming up that maybe some families out there you want to make sure they're aware of?
Yes. So every Saturday at 9, I do send out a weekly newsletter to families about what's going on in the school. We try to communicate as much as we can. And again, like middle school children, you can give them information 5 times directly to their face, and they still might not get it.
Right.
So anything that we broadcast. So for an example, like this week we were selling candygrams to kids in the school, where you can buy one and give them to a friend. Next week we have the PTA holiday gift shop is going to be set up Tuesday,
cool.
Wednesday, Thursday. Anything that we tell the parents in the newsletter that's sent out on the weekend, we also have posts. We have TV monitors in the commons, and we have a rotation of all the information about all the clubs and all the upcoming activities. Try to keep the kids informed as much as possible. We have announcements. We post things in grade level classrooms, so every kid is a part of a Google Classroom. So for an example, if I'm a 6th grader, I'm in the 6th grade Google Classroom page. And so club sponsors will post on there. We will post on there. There was a lunch survey that was given out to every kid in the district, but they took that survey because it was posted on that classroom. So we try to get all the communication out this way. We have we do a December to Remember Indian Trail style. So
I like it.
Every year the student council creates every day is some sort of spirit day. Today, and they come up with these creative titles, which I love. Like today's theme was Slay All Day, wear your holiday best.
Yes.
I love that. I love the pun.
Big fan. Big fan.
Big fan of the puns. So that's what we have going on right now. The library and the Innovation Center itself is basically done. So we're in the process of our wonderful librarian and her staff, Miss Kiss, they are moving stuff in there. They are putting things on the shelves. It is coming together. There have been groups of teachers that have walked through there. For an example, we have a leadership group at school that I took in there so that they could see the space, and we talked about logistical things what questions they have, because it's new and you have to learn to adjust and adapt to those things. And we have been planning probably for a long time having a grand unveiling of the Innovation Center.
Okay, I got to hear more about this.
Yes. So I have a group that's a building leadership team, and there's a subcommittee on there that has been creating a unveiling, like roll out the red carpet for the Innovation Center, and everybody in the community is welcome. It's going to be the first week in February. I can't remember the date exactly off the top of my head, but we're gonna have fun activities. I am doing a read aloud on our learning stairs.
Oh, very cool.
We're gonna have there's whiteboards that are located around the kind of the exterior of the library, and we're gonna have graffiti art. That's literacy based. They have to be literacy based activities, because we, in a technical side of things, we use title monies to help fund this type of event to get parents in. But we're very excited to share and open up this space to the kids. I know our librarian, Miss Kiss, took a group of kids, and she has it's called the Student Library Board, and they're kids that just love reading, and she took them into the library, and they were ecstatic.
Yeah. Please tell me more.
Yes.
That's why I'm leaning in.
Cool.
What are the general kids' thoughts? What's the feedback from the teachers?
She said to me that one kid turned to her and looked at her and said, this is my dream library. And it's that just melts your heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And that's the thing that I get asked sometimes from people in the community, how different is it? I don't know how to answer, because I saw what it was previously in the spring, and to say it's different is such an understatement. So
Truly.
if I was a community member and I randomly saw you at a gas station and I said, Hey, how different is that library? What would you say?
Yeah, vastly different. The best thing that I can compare it to is if you've ever been inside the main building of a community college, and they have
It really does have that feel to it.
Yeah, so there are just little pockets of space everywhere and seats, and it just screams, come on in, sit down, enjoy yourself. And we were doing a walk around, and there was a specific area that has like some wood paneling on the ceiling, and it just feels like home, like you're sitting in a chair reading. And I thought to myself, I might take my computer and just like park myself here for an hour and just do work here, and because it just feels welcoming.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I would say like a community college. That's the vibe that I get.
I love that. So remind us once more. You said the first week of February is when we can expect to have that grand unveiling?
Yes. The first week of February, we'll post all of the information on our social media so folks are aware. Obviously, in the newsletters that we send out to try to engage the community a little bit, we do have flyers that we're planning to post in the library. We have a really great relationship with the Addison Public Library.
Right.
I know Dr. Sutton in the past has mentioned the great community partnerships that the school district has with other the municipalities and things like that. So we'll try to communicate through all the channels that we can to just get that out there. If you're willing to share, Mr. Constantopoulos.
Of course,
Okay,
of course.
excellent.
I was just going to say, for everybody listening, stay tuned. We're definitely going to bring this up on the podcast again. We're going to post it on the website, social media, all that good stuff. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Now, Mr. Jamrose, question for you.
Yes.
Let's just say somebody has questions. They want to know more. They're listening to this and they say, okay, we really need to know more about this Innovation Center. They want to know about some of the events coming up. What is the best way that one of our families could reach out to you?
There are a couple of ways to reach out to me. Email is probably the easiest. I'm not in my office often, so I'm not sitting there by the phone.
Of course.
So my email is my first initial C, as in Chris Jamrose, JAMROSE at asd4.org. You could call the school. My direct line is 630-458, I have to think about this, 2533.
Perfect.
Yes,
Awesome.
That's the best way to reach. I am on Twitter as well. I am working on that. I've actually been on Twitter since 2008 when it came out, and I saw it as a way to consume news. And I have a personal Twitter and a professional Twitter, and I think on my personal Twitter, I think I've posted 5 times in
that's
like
me
15
too.
years.
That's me too. Totally understand.
Yeah.
But Dr. Sutton, same question to you. If you have somebody that wants to reach out, they want to talk more about the Innovation Center, maybe they want to be a part of that grand unveiling. How can they reach out to you?
District email, district phone number, same as always, but I am always lingering on Twitter as well, at Dr. Nick Sutton. Dean, same question to you.
Twitter's going to be the best way, at AddisonSD4. Well, Mr. Jamrose, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure to have you, and we're really excited about these new innovations and all these events coming up.
I am too. I want to thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Of course, and for everyone listening, stay tuned for next time. Thank you for tuning in to our ASD Chat for All podcast. Check us out at www.asd4.org, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts for more. We'll be back soon with another episode, so stay tuned.